Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Before I get started with the things I want to say today, I want to talk about another YouTube channel, a guy that's a personal friend of mine. I've known him for quite a long time now, and uh, he made a video this morning talking about me, and I want to give him a shout out uh, and tell a little bit of a story about him and why he's just a great guy. And so I want to encourage you, number one, to go check out his channel. It's a small channel. His channel name is NWA Prepper. Some of you know who I'm talking about. He has the coolest name. His name is Travis. But he doesn't post a whole lot, like I do. He doesn't post every day, but he posts some really good content. And the main thing is this guy is really, in real life, he's one of the nicest people you could ever meet. He's just got such a big heart, and he's just a really good person. And to give you some proof, I guess, or at least my experience with him, he a few years ago, I went through a very tragic thing in my life. Something I won't go into the details of it, but it's one of those tragic things that very few people have to go through, and that no one should ever have to go through. And it hit me hard. And we had been emailing back and forth, and so I kind of opened up to him, and I was just at the lowest place I've ever been in my life. And he wanted to talk to me on the phone, so we talked on the phone, and I opened up, telling him about what had gone on, and where I was, and how I was taking it. And it was a pretty low spot for me in life. And this conversation was happening at around, I don't know, probably 9 o'clock at night, and he lives about 5 hours from me. And he said, I'm coming up there to see you. I said, what do you mean? He says, I'm coming up there right now to see you. He said, I'll come up there, we'll hang out a little, for a couple hours, and then I come back and go to work in the morning. I said, no, you're not going to do that. I said, I'll be fine. I said, that's just too much on you to, drive all night just to see me, talk a couple hours and drive back and go to work. And I know he would have done it if I hadn't put my foot down. I just told him, I said, that's just too much. Don't do something like that, because you've got a family and you got to work, and driving all night, that'll just be too much on you. But it proved to me that he was just that kind of person, and he really is. Everyone that I've ever heard that talk about him, they all have the same story. This guy has a huge heart, and a really good person. So go check out NWA Prepper. And the reason why I'm saying all this is, once again, he lifted me up. Doing these videos every day. It's not the only thing I do in my life. I have a family and a homestead that we're building from scratch all over again. If you've been following me for a while, we bought a new place about a year ago, and decided to start from scratch again. And then just everything else I do in my life, work and everything, it's a lot. And so making these videos every day, it's coming up with content and being creative and producing them. It's a lot. And there are times, no offense to anyone, but there's times that it's a little burdensome, it feels, even though I enjoy it. And today was one of those days. I've been working really hard the last several days, doing stuff around here on the homestead, just really physical stuff. And so I'm just sore as can be. Haven't slept good in the last few nights because of that. And I just, one of those days that I didn't feel like doing much of anything. I certainly didn't really feel like doing a video. I usually wake up early and have coffee, and that's when I kind of brainstorm with, what content to work on that day. And sitting there this morning, I just thought, man, I've got so much other stuff to do. I just don't feel like taking the time to come up with content and make a video. And I'm just not depressed, but just like physically down, just tired and sore. And then I watched his video, and it was very uplifting, the kind words that he had to say. And it's nothing to pat myself on the back. It's to show that that there are some really good people out there, and encourage you to go check out his channel, NWA Prepper. It's Northwestern Arkansas, um, and he's about the best guy you could ever meet. And he also has a Patreon channel. You could sign up for that. You know, it's $1 a month over there. I was one of his first Patreon channel members, and he was my first Patreon when I started mine. He was the one that encouraged me to start mine. And he said, if you start it, I'll sign up. And so I did. But anyways, I just wanted to let you know that, just because he's an awesome person, and he's very knowledgeable and stuff. He does a lot of like gear reviews. He's big on first aid. He's a paramedic, so he's really big on first aid and equipment, and he talks about tricks and stuff of how to prepare and how to be organized. And but he's a good person. And in this world that we live in, it seems that there's less and less of those good people. It's like we live in a crazy madhouse. I said yesterday, I believe, that it's like we're in a circus, and something that I've actually said for a few years now. And I say it kind of tongue in cheek, a little sarcasm to it, but I think there's a lot of truth when I say it too. My wife, she kind of does the eye roll thing when I say it. But I say, you know what? I think I've figured it out. I figured out the problem, solved the riddle to life. We actually are living in the Matrix, like the movie. For those of you that saw that movie years ago, you know, we're what we see around us is just a computer simulation, and we're actually way into the future, but we're just plugged into a machine, and they're just using the energy from our bodies to feed this machine. And they're feeding these images in our head to make us think that this is real, this is a reality, and if it's just a matrix. And in the movie, they said that they had to go through several matrices. You know, the computer program was wrong, and people would rebel against it, and they would have to reset the matrix and try to find this matrix that humanity would accept. And I think that's what we are. We're in the matrix, okay? We're in the matrix, and the programming is not working, and that's what this reset's about. They're going to reset the matrix on us. I know it sounds silly, but and I'm not saying that I really believe that, but it doesn't sound too far from the truth, with just the insanity that we hear more and more every day. Stuff coming out from, you know, the news media, the corporations, the stuff that they're doing, the Hollywood crowd, and this, my goodness, the insanity with this generation and their gender and their just how they think and do things. It boggles my mind, and this current administration and global politics, and it's crazy, right? And speaking of the crazy, today, I guess, the president is going to be announcing some executive actions that he is issuing on gun control. Now, an executive action isn't an executive order, but these are directives to federal agencies on what he wants them to do, policy changes. And it appears that these are going to be directed at the Justice Department, and pretty much specifically at the ATF, on how that they interpret laws. And that he's wanting them to be very strict on the pistol braces, very strict on red flag gun laws, and come up with a generic red flag gun law that other states could adapt. But one of the biggest things that he's doing is that he is appointing an ATF director, a new ATF director. David Chipman, I believe is his name. This guy is a former ATF agent himself, retired, I think, from the ATF. But he's also a gun control advocate. In fact, since he's been out of the ATF, he has actually headed and helped found gun control advocacy organizations. And so this guy is hardcore anti-gun. He made a statement, he made a statement a few years back that his interpretation of the Second Amendment is that government is supposed to highly regulate firearms. Where it says the well-regulated militia part, that his definition of that is that the government is to heavily well regulate firearms. And this is, you know, every administration for a long time has really advocated regulation of firearms. I mean, even going back to Reagan, he was not a very pro Second Amendment person that a lot of conservatives like to try to paint him as. In fact, he signed into legislation some of the worst gun control legislation. Uh, so this has been going on for a long time, but it's getting a lot worse. And the stuff that's coming out of this administration is it could be extremely bad. And here we're appointing a gun control advocate to the ATF. I mean, that's kind of like appointing a drug dealer off the street to the FDA, or some big pollutant CEO of some pollutant company to the head of the EPA or something like that. And well, I guess we already do that kind of stuff, so I guess it's probably not that big of a shock that they're doing an ATF agent or a gun control advocate to the head of the ATF. But he also, for those of you that don't know, he was also kind of the agent in charge of the Waco incident. This guy was the head agent that did the testifying in the trial. Aftermath after the Waco bombing and destruction. And then he went on and told some untruths, saying that the Branch Davidians had shot down some helicopters, some federal agent helicopters at that Branch Davidian compound, which was not true. So are we looking at Waco 2.0? And for those of you that are a little older, you know what I'm talking about. Maybe some of you younger people don't. But if you don't, you need to do some research into Waco. And while I certainly don't agree with the religious beliefs of the people there at Waco, in no way did they deserve what was given to them, where they were bombed and basically burned alive inside that building. And we've got a person going to be running the ATF that basically caused that, or he was in charge and greatly influenced the actions there at the incident in Waco. Along with the many other things that are going on, those of us that are homesteaders and preppers, and which usually are very pro Second Amendment, this is some serious stuff. The legislation that is being proposed when it comes to gun control would make not guns illegal necessarily, but it's their little backdoor way of making it nearly impossible to obtain them, and especially the ammunition for them. I mean, there's even proposed legislation that ammunition would be taxed, a federal tax, kind of like the tax that you would have to get to own a suppressor or a fully automatic weapon. You have to pay a tax, a federal tax to own them. They would be a federal tax of $100 for each individual round of ammunition that you purchase. You'd think ammunition's expensive right now when you're paying $50 for a box of 9mm, and then they tax it at $100 per round. I mean, no one could purchase it. And I know you'll say, well, we'll just make our own ammunition, load our own. I'm sure they'll have some laws that would regulate that, the regulation of the sale of gunpowder and primers and things like that. I've said it for a while, folks. We have, as a nation, have taken the left turn on the road, and we've kicked it into high gear. I mean, someone pushed the nitrous supercharger double turbo button, and that's where we're headed, is down that road. And I don't know where we'll end up, but there's some hope in seeing that there are certain states that are kind of bucking that system. We've got states that's issued executive orders and are working on legislation that would outlaw VC passports in their state. There's states that are passing Second Amendment protection acts, meaning that federal laws that violate the Second Amendment would be nullified or at least not enforceable within their state. And of course, these actions that these states are taking, while we may like them, they are some of the most rebellious acts that states have done against the national government since the Civil War, and maybe even more so rebellious than some of those actions during that time. So where is that going to end up? At some point, if the states start, some of these states start, drawing that line in the sand, putting the stake in the ground and saying you're not going to cross this, the national government they have to make a choice. They either back down, which is highly unlikely, or they cross that line. And then, of course, the states have to make that choice. Are they going to not back down, defend themselves, or are they going to, capitulate to the national government's, coercion and threats? So I guess what I'm getting at is that depending on how this all plays out, on top of all the other stuff that we talk about that's going on, these actions by these, conservative states against the very progressive left federal government's, legislation and behavior are basically the beginning steps of civil war. And we've already got potential World War III going on with several other countries across the planet. We talked about that yesterday. Big Brother is just all over us. New World Order with the Great Reset. And then here we've got potential, what looks to be like the building blocks of a civil war. Will it go to that far? I don't know. It's most likely not, but it's certainly potential. And with these actions against the Second Amendment, which we all know, it's that kind of last line of defense against tyranny. It's like they're trying to just stir up a hornet's nest. They don't care anymore. They don't care about the slow cooking of the frog. I said it over on my Patreon channel a few days ago that they're ready to kick the heat up now. That we've been slow cooking long enough. They're ready to kick the heat up and finish the job. And John Kerry said about Joe Biden in the beginning of this year that he is ready and able to rapidly increase this and push this great reset. That it will happen with intensity and speed. That he will push this great reset upon America. So I don't know that I have advice today. Just we wanted to talk about this. I wanted to talk about this and talk about my friend over at NWA Prepper. Because as bad as things look, and they look kind of glim and dark, there's some good people out there, and we need to find them, and we need to stick together and continue to prepare our lives for the changing future, because it's changing very rapidly. All right, folks, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.